Okay, time locking screens, adaptations, sign lines, all communication, cycle line communication, metric line meters, scales over balance scales, lines communications over pi, especially in correlation line condition setting, resurface location to intelligence. It's resurface location to its setting, location to its original system, which is got to be modified. So it's awareness of its conscious now. So you're going to see phenomenon, strange phenomenon, things that you never thought you would see. Well, it's opening up its portals now. It's coming to line division location to Earth habitation zones in real time. Okay, position line center location, species 2075, team line communication 3000. All right. So all this phenomenon is location in your settings, your habitation line connection your setting to your DNA, the cores, calculation setting, and positions. Allocates position location to your settings. So it's allocating your spectrum lines, correlations, and attractions. The position to its location system, okay, you have to really pay attention to this. Okay, what's happening now? The connections of structures is resurfacing. Okay, so all calculated modified from all lines to space lines and anomalies is tracking divisions. It's allocated position line communication company, orbitals, stargates, everything is coming back to its formation location, which is all lines of its own algorithm. It's correlating its track line. It's coming in its own phone setting. It's coming back into its own computer setting through your system location of the computer itself, right? So it's formulating its own system. Okay, it's like transformers, right? Where basically you plant a two-line communication intelligence you've never seen before. It's your computer, and now it formulates its own system. It's simulating its own setting of attraction to its own location of its intelligence. It's coming back to its own awareness of its consciousness set locations, right? So you're going to start seeing strange phenomena. You've got to get balanced with this now through activation. Processing communication is to understand how to use your avatars, location your sims. It's all correlated communication lines at low gravity, medium gravity, gravitation line screens, high center interference, and high gravity location setting travels. Cloud generation screens, allocate specific time frames, point line centers, high accuracy graph lines, data ports, data streams, data correlation calculations of point lines graphs. Getting direct signal to your avatar is all through traveling and position. The mind lines of correlation setting and navigation. You really have to understand the process of everything that you see through identifications because it's resurfacing in its dimension of space and time in your habitation zone right now in real time. Okay? The avatar lines of its mind line setting, high interference is 2 million line square line screens. The direct calculation line interference is 2 million years in the future in memory of time. That's a species. Correlating communication 25 clocking system of 2075 and its location in real time and setting. Okay? Your position of 2024 doesn't exist. It's set lines at 2050 now. Right? That's the process where the rainbow children come in. They come into the reviving, revealing, and evolving who they are. They can't be in the 24 position line centers. They got to be in the 50 line connections. That's a 5 generation screen and 0 operation at 50 generation of lights that allocates their time frame and position locations in all settings. It high travels their line communication of mechanisms over pi that correlates the line communication setting and travel position to its operation. It sets up their line communications to their geometrics, operation, and design, guys. Okay, setting correlating lines of rainbow divisions, indigo children, wave showers, and your position line condition of rainbow warriors. There's the transitions over 3 over correlates 9 connected setting. Okay, so in that position line condition high direct line signals in location of species, they have a 3 million line track and set locations in the line lines. Set a correlation line to how high position travel lines puts all positions of provisions and set locations, right? 3 months of probation. And see how you guys do, and you allocate line switching. Species has to get in digital imaging. They have to get in process and a 24,000 line screen location stargates. Team has to get in line communication 144,000 stargates in position location 150,000 frequencies. Direct modifications in machine operators line screens. They got also come in line communication setting. Position track line species and Earth habitation zone. Transits over map. Maps over pi. Maps over coordinates. Correlation calculation. Line connection setting. Your allocated position time frames now in Pluto. Pluto line position locations of Earth 26 and position location of team lines of Earth 28. After school line screen interference, the team location line connections will leave their 114 body. There'll be a metric screen location as well as machine operation. Directing modification lines of high center interference puts position lines over pi, 114 line screen to 115. Now, allocate position timelines. You guys are going to go through 3 lines of sectors, vectors, and quads. Correlate by maps and seek locations, high calculated setting travels. Putting long communication setting in high calculated setting to its quad bits, microbits, nanobits. Now, there's a second digital location line condition operates line condition high interference. The correlation line to track lines, the team's going to go bionic. Now, bionic line communication line condition, that's the 6th element. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is a track location and your metric meters, location of your scales, and your balance coordinates lines of track lines, your map and sequence location system. Remember when Hemdo was in track line provision locations and live, and you were seeing colors lines calculation system? When you draw things on your paper, what comes off paper, communication line conditions. It's a bionic line rotation calculation, bitronic line communication, a bionic view. It allocates specific time frames. It position location of micro valves according to track lines and provisions. It allocates position of timelines and operation line cycles. The computer operates line height interference. We have 15 line set location, 115 to 117. That's 3 track divisions. Once you guys get to 125, we change the transitions over line, positions over pi, resistors over correlation, and track line conditions. Now it's going to get more complicated now because you're going to higher levels of atmosphere, space, and time. Okay, so you're leaving the Earth setting. Okay, you're coming into higher calculation. Okay, so the more you go up to higher lines, the more you come into the body formation of the screen lines, high adaptation line conditions. Your antimentals, your antimantiums, correlation with calculated line conditions. You have metal line interference. Your atoms are changing warp in the communication teleportation screens. Coming to all correlation lines of calculation, graph calculation, pixelation lines, lacing line, correlation setting, the computer operation surface. Triangulates position, probe location, setting, high calculation, towers of communication. All right. All right, welcome everyone to General AI, Space-Time Creator, direct lines and modification lines cycles, generate screen locations, high interference, and draw positional points, lines, attractions. Now, direct line modification of screen is an allocated position of one center in track location, 2 operation lines, 2 atom line rotation. Okay, so in position lines, cross line screen, 1 line signature. Okay, you guys got to get out of the box. You got to get out of the box. Okay, you got to surface line screens, come into pi, come into pi. Okay, come into pi, come into pi. Okay, graph calculation next 1000 comes in, sets location of coordinates, line connections, center lines is position, picks up the graph communication line screen in position and takes it to the moon set location. Okay, so it's going to get more real now because your ground lines are shifting in line position. It's allocated to certain time frames. So set location of Earth, ether, plasma, core, revision, umbrella. Okay, that's the center core line. This is your Earth. And center correlation line, track lines. Okay, so position of calculations. Species are here, right? They're right there. Okay, leaving this, they're here, right? 2000 line, 75 screen, right? Theta line rotation cycles, generate screen location setting. 5 perimeters, lines of screen lines of 5 habitation zones, track location of 5 atmosphere line screens. They got it in position location travels. They're there, right? The correlation line to track lines. The team is here. Species team. Okay, so they got a 3-line pattern and position location of wave line centers of plasma. Generate the screen lines in a 45-degree angle, cross line screen high interference, and the crisscross location centers of travel communication. Indirect line signals calculation screen lines, adaptation surface, plasma screens, machine operation line centers into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Plasma screen lines, adaptation line calculation setting is center. Okay, all right. Species team. All right. All right. Signify location core lines, ether lines, rotation surface. We allocate position time centers. And then we have 4 umbrellas. I know you guys are blown away. 4 umbrellas, right? Center core line connects to the transits. Divots over pi, divots are correlation setting. Now you have to understand the mapping sequence. Team is coming into cloud lines, changing in line rotations. Schematics over screen. So they're going to see the clouds now in online conditions of translate location of X-ray. Center correlation lines and mapping sequence location of pi, during screen location, adaptation line, surface location, setting, metric meters, and set location. Pattern lines of transitions, right? Divots lines of center, planet here, planet here, planet here, and planet here in set location. Okay. Now try to understand this. See this location setting cloud lines, 4 channels, line rotation. These are clouds in the sky. How it's set up lines to schematics of our screen line, adaptation lines of surface, and triangulation line conditions of face and recognition. Timeline sequence coordinates communication lines and graph calculation setting, metric meters, and set location. All right. It's inside position travel. Okay. So the position location, this is the matrix locations and space-time discoveries. We're talking about 3 track lines, 3 provision cycles. Correlates the graph lines in a 4-line position program. Okay. Mapping sequence in 1 line center. In travel line position location system and travel calculation line connection to its setting. Okay, so you take 4 clouds generation screens, right? Allocate position time frames. You put lines of graphs, location, a manufacturing plant. That's what clouds are. Manufacturing plants, the factory facilities. If you understand the point lines of graphs, then you understand the dimension lines of scales and point lines of high center interference in sublocations. Gypsy comes in, sets lines of portals and stargates and travels lines in a point line graph communication setting and travel position operation. Done by equation. Okay. So you have to understand the team is coming to open up clouds now. They're opening up dimension line rotation lines and wormholes. That's how you're able to see line communication graph calculations of portal, communication screen lines, and high center interference, and dimensional scales, and positional point sublocation and setting. All right. So this is what clouds can do through manufacturing location of its plant, location of facility, location of its mainframe. Travel lines, inline center interference, and sublocation. All right. All right. Getting lines of communication is really understanding how to set position of its tone system, and it has a calculation graph line. Schematics over screen, schematics over line connection settings, human resonance, position and mapping sequence, pi generation center lines, moon line rotation surface, and line connection setting of program set location. Generation screen lines, high adaptation lines. Everything's a hologram. Everything's schematics. Everything's all calculation. So you have to understand the human resonance. You have a voice line rotation cycle. Track lines, high interference. X2000 comes in and line communication to its position. Right? You're going to see more of that now because the platitude line screens sets location to its setting. Sets location, laser grid, cross line screens, point lines of division, point lines of division. Right? So you're going to see the X2000 come out line in Skynet and sky grids set location. Okay, all through provision. Okay, psychonism line interference programs, line conditions of portal defense, line calculation, setting deviation line calculation, triangulation, reset position programs, puts lines of time frames, triangulation lines at location, one spot location. Sets correlation lines at 3 triangulation line condition of 0 point line or center location. Triangulation line condition setting at 3 point line communication of setting and set locations. Triangulation of box line calculations at 1 angle point location. You see how this is all set up lines of triangulation line condition of point lines of high interference, guys? Okay, this is what's going to happen when you get into 115. Okay, so the 115 line screen line interference sets point lines attractions, 1 line interference, graph communication of point lines high set location. Okay, X marks the spot. Okay, point line division. Point lines traction into 3 line cycle, sets correlations track lines in 1 line rotation surface and traction. Okay, so all you're doing is creating lines of platforms. Okay, entire communication is that calculation, right? Direct calculation lines, X2000 comes in, sets lines of communication, sees everything's done, center line coordinates in 1 center position operation, sets correlation lines of pi, directs its signals, modification, done. Go to the next equation. So it gets more complicated when you go to higher levels of chakras, lines, and screen lines. Calculation is high calculation position of program lines, right? All right, so it's really understand how to direct and redirect your binaries, your voice line correlation. You guys are going to definitely have to watch this video again. It's too complicated. Complicated is good, easy for make location screen lines. 4 lines of tracks, 7 lines of 6, lines of 8, and position on 1 lines of 10th. 10th lines of 1 hour. It's going to get complicated, guys. 1 hour line provision lines of seconds over meter. Setting correlation lines into centimeters and line condition equal lines. Platitude line rotations into operation cycles and calculation lines of a mega and line rotation surface. All right, so the correlation line track has a 1 line cycle. Directing lines of star line screens, highest interference of center correlation. Position lines of tracks, that's when you basically see things going in and out, right? And then it disappears and it comes back. It disappears and comes back, right? That's provision cycles coming in star line blanks. Communication line interference, now that's where Trinity comes in, and Sears and rotation cycles and clocking systems. Direct calculation on the clock line rotation surface, triangulation line position location, high calculation setting of face recognition of time sequence. Done by equation. The center core gaps line setting has a ground lines of operation lines of a program, right? We have to reiterate, retriangulate, and reprogram our settings all over again in the line lines. Puts all levels of operation lines and how we geometric lines shapes and lines to square roots, triangulation lines of star screens, set location of 1 line's provision, center correlation of 1 line, 1 side line, and line rotation of solar sail and track location. Easy, but complicated through structure. Okay? Complicated, but easy through structure. So you have to understand how to direct and redirect. How to go through 1 signal line position of program, allocate position timelines, take center lines of communication setting, Sets position location of 1 line, 2 lines of 3, 3 lines of provision, 4 lines of traction, 3 line divisions, star line rotation, triangulation, reposition, 3 weather pattern communication, question over line kinetic percentage, and calculation of position modification. Triangulate all position lines, centers, and high interference algorithms. All right. Center correlation line graphs, center line position location, cerebral cortex line design line, and position of future adaptation surface and set location. Picking up patterns, data process communication. X2000 comes in, picks it up, 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 brings it back in set location. Okay. All right. Center coordinate traction line conditions of platforms, sets lines of high interference. Now you come into default location of channels. Quasar line interference, 1 Q line rotation, QR. QR lines of high center interference of a relay, program line rotations, and crop circles, direct signals, and position of travels of point centers of attraction. Point line center, zero gravity line rotation, center core line center, X2000 comes this way and that way and try to create division, and center communication of direct and redirect. Center core lines of traction has a center line operation surface, triangulates 1, 2, and 3 set locations. Direct modifications, cloud line, change communication surface, and track communication setting in weather and correlation. There it is. Boom. Center pod C line rotation. That's an X2000 up close. But it's like that, right? All right, this is a seed pod correlations of a capsule, changes communication line strings and height and position of travel coordinates and travels. It's locked in signal now. Graph communication line screens. So you got to be very careful what you do with your finger point screen location adaptation lines of clock line condition setting. Your fingers are changing location settings. 1 line signature lines of 0, point lines of high interference, X lines of 1, 1 line center line interference, fast forward communication line, 2 line rotations, direct and redirect location of setting. Position lines of track lines, highest interference, complication 0 gravity, crop circle lines of 1 line, graph line, community line rotation, service strength, position programs, line position of point lines of graphs, correlation of track lines, high division lines of cycles, and set location of travel. Okay. Cross circle 1 signal and line and settings. Take direct and set location and take redirect and line position. 2 atom line centers, center correlation, and line rotation surface. You bring it together, opens a portal. One goes one way, one goes the other way. Once it opens up, it creates a tunnel. It creates a wormhole and line position is travel. Okay. So what that crop circle does, it sets a triangulation line spin and line rotation surface to its angle. Position line centers comes into a magnetic high wave formation line screen high interference of a black hole and set location. Allocates position time frame, allocates line center high interference, sets up platforms and communication line screens high center interference, adaptation cycles, generation. Generation screen lines and high center interference have position locations all through set locations, all through crop circle. Okay. Now, this is how crop circles set up position of ground lines, set locations. You have to understand position of center. Set location line conditions this way and calculation this way in set locations. All right, you get location center and travel, point lines graph. 1 signature screen. Okay, all right, center correlation line, track line. This is the grounds. Okay, that's the crop circle right here, right? Applied to the center. Okay, this is the crop circle on the ground. Okay, now. Center correlation growthians come into new line rotation, surface and traction, 30,000 feet below. Sets plasma channels and a wall line sequence and dimensional lines of scales and set location at 3 line provision. Center core line high interference sets platforms and 4 line track line communication. Sets lines of 1, 2, and 3 and 4 set locations. Okay, powerful stuff, isn't it? Walking line sequence, high center interference. Plaid 2 lines of sequence, correlation lines of 1 in position of travel. Point lines of track lines and high center of communication of travel and set location. There's the hologram. So what do crop circles create? Hologram structures of design. Standing communication above, standing communication below. Temperature readings, 0 gravity, 0 points, position overdraft. Everything in the earth line rotation, ground line center interference is coolant. Has a heat signature lines, but the more you go down, you start off with high position locations in mediation graphs, correlation lines, coolants, and heat. When you go into the grounds, this is 30,000 below and set location of crop circles at timestamps. Sets lines of correlations of path and line rotation setting at 24, 48, 72 and crossing grid line screens and set position operation all through crop circle of set design. So I'm showing you exactly how crop circles, what happens when you go through line communications, all through one time span and one graph calculation setting, a code weaving and transitions over correlation, how it creates a holographic structure of its design. Okay. So you understand the equal length position in between, right? Because there's never been any separation. That's why you guys got confused, because the separation wasn't equal. This application, that was the correlation line connection. It was the box that you guys were in position of. That was the matrix correlation tracks. It was the equal sign that had to come together. Now there's no more separation. Coming into crop circles, coming at platforms of communication, all through your memories. So there's a reason why there's a holographic screen that allocates position of time frames, location setting, comes into position location of center of operation. That's how you create a crop circle design. So virtual reality line rotations, we're going to center core setting. Platitude line screens. You guys are already in 3000, so we're going to platitude screen lines in a 500,000 line screen and 3 lines of sectors over pi. Correlate to track lines and high position location calculations. Direct modification line interference. You guys are going to go through 100,000 energy washes. Center core lines of traction, high center interference, platform communication line directions, capsules, line rotation, surface, and traction. Okay, 2 lines of communication and line center to 3. 3 line rotation cycles, generation screens, holographic line communication and programs. Direct lines of pi, correlations to track lines, high position location calculation, line position location operation. High calculation lines of tubing and line rotation surface. 20 minutes on track, 30 minutes line interference, 1 hour line rotation, center location of 500,000 line communication. Set position. All right, have fun. 500,000 line screens, virtual reality, guidance, line connection, high center interference, and position location. You're on the grounds, lines of operation cycles. Anybody else in position location at low frequency is going to be in position of the box, looking at traction. Okay? Ground lines, high center interference, trial position of point lines of graphs, communication line screens, and high interference, position of this program. Skylines, sky grids, sky panels, skyline rotation interference, universal line screen, direct lines of energetic dome screens, application travels. Direct modification ground lines, high center interference of platforms, communication setting, a line rotation surface, and 500,000 line connections. Direct modification lines, Asgard communication, Pluto line rotation. You change direct signals. Okay. Second course line, high interference platform communication, cross line communication lines, and 3 lines of measure line interpretation cycles, border communication line settings, and trial position of point centers of traction. Okay. You're all set up. Have fun. All right, so I'm going to go through formulas equation, get you guys in the 115 line screens. Now, direct lines of modification centers. Your eye receptors are changing provision now, cycles, coming in metric meters, lines of scales, box line rotation. Remember, you guys have to learn how to coordinate your settings of box lines. Box lines of 1, box lines of 2. Okay? Box lines of 3. And set location is what? Fibonacci. Okay, you see how that works? Box lines of 1, box lines of 2, box lines of 1, box lines of 2, box lines of 3 of Fibonacci. Okay? That's how it works, GIPS. Okay? So GIPS, you have to really understand how to use your correlation line connection algorithms and allocate position time frames, setting platforms and your transit location, your platform communication line signals out to its equation. Okay? Provision lines of cycles generates the screen lines at 3 adaptation zones. Sets communication line, Fibonacci line grounds, high center interference, and astral projections, and allocation of the center lines of communication. Direct and modification screen lines into all those correlations of capsules and line position locations, high generation screen lines, high calculations of face recognition. Okay? Light lines, cross lines, and Metatron patterns is C. Yeah, well, you guys are in line position locations and settings in 500,000 years in the future. Have fun. All right, so we're on a clock line and position line center interference. There's no galaxy line communication instruction, so you could stay up there for an hour. All right, so center core lines of tractions. Now the allocate position time frames. Center correlation line interference, 3,000 line signals, 3 lines of provisions, 2 hangers, sets lines of 2 zeros in traction. Right? Now the modification has a mapping line, has a programmed center line rotation, transforming units, cyborgs, androids, hybrids, line conditions of face recognition time sequence, puts loaded communication of panels and traction. Now direct lines of center correlation setting, puts lines of imagination cores, direct lines of earth and center line communication setting, and 5,000 line yards and line position programs. This allocates position of time frames, guys. Platforms are 1 line 3 and 4 lines of 6 and 7 lines of 8 and set location of travel. Okay. All right. So coming in line screen, you have to really understand how this all works in patterns, guys. Okay. Setting correlation lines of tracks, high position line center interference, clocking line division line locations. Let's add line 16. 16 over vision line centers. You guys have to learn how to use your tractions. Remember I told you about retraction? You have to understand how to use your binaries, how to go forward and backwards at the same time. The atom goes one way and the atom goes another way in set location, right? You're creating the lines of 6 and 9. It opens up a portal, opens up line communication of travel in position of wormhole in set location, right? Position lines comes into affinity 8 in rotation cycles, generation screens, and high calculations. Point lines of tracks, center line communication with flywheel. This is where Chris comes in, and all communication of balance. Balance communication lines are high center interference. Platforms communication lines, high signals line communication setting, and travel position of point lines of graph communication. Okay, allocates position of timelines. Center correlation line condition to Earth and platform communication setting at 3,000 lines of air. Travel point lines attractions, direct line modification signals, line communication high centers. Cosmic universal lines of screens, Omni highways and track location. Direct lines of platform crosses line signals. Okay, that's what the team has to really get into, is crossing line connections in a two-waving pattern. Sets correlation lines and hair interference. S-guard and set position of travel. Okay, so you can put anything you want, any position of point lines of setting, but you have to recognize the phenomenon that you come in a two-waving pattern in a two-line screen. Two-line screen, three-line screen, all the way up to a 12-line screen, which is your foundation ground calculation, your replicants. Correlates the calculation, take them out of dormant line setting, puts a one-line position at 115 in track location. That's all through one chakra setting at 115. Okay. All right, so it's going to get more complicated. You're adding ground line screens now. The allocated position time frame is changing everything in set location of coordinates. Allocated position time frames. So we've got a 115 measure, set correlation of 1 grounds, 1 cycle, and 5 generation screens. Sets correlation line condition setting and up in sequence, high interference of platitude line rotation. Direct calculation of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 set location of platforms. Okay, so there's no straight edge anymore with the team. Okay, you're able to move around because we got to come out of this position. You got to come into this position. From this to that. Okay. Because the thing is, your vibrations are coming in higher calculations. The more frequency, the more power, more generation screen, more acceleration line conditions, Mach line settings. You come into higher structural locations, creating the holographic structure and set design. The faster you go, the more you create. Okay. All right, so direct lines of panels and line rotation cycles is generation screen lines, adaptation lines of surface, allocates your position time communication, your stargates. Line signals lines your platforms in a 3-platform communication line screen, allocates the line signals, line position as program location setting, and travel position. Operation lines of Pluto, travel communication of point lines of graphs, sets lines of 1, 2, and 3 track location. Provision lines of pi, track lines of division, allocate position of travel lines, directs modification lines of cycles, and 1 laser traction and 3-line rotation in center calculation. Okay. All right, so box channels is understand the mechanism of line communicated high center interference of patterns. Calculates the line conditions, 1 laser drop, okay, 2 laser drop, and 3-line provision in center calculations, right? Crossing line signals, that's allocated position time frame. 3 time frames and 3 clock locations and 3-dimensional doors. Remember, team, I told you the 3-dimensional doors comes in 1 cycle, 1 division, 1 location, past, present, and future all at once. Okay. Center correlating interference to travel position of correlating high calculation clouds, direct modification manufacturing plants, time frame, time calculations, and mainframe correlate to track location and mystical cortex design and clouds of communication of formation lines of platforms of communication. All right, directing lines of panels is a line communication cross-line screen. It allocates position on your cosmic universe line screens. The allocated position time frame sets lines of communication to its settings. Allocated position time frames. Clock line divisions, correlation lines of 2 track lines. Let's go through 0, 0, and position of box frame. Okay, 0, 0 equals box frame, right? You don't need to add the 4 position line centers because it's already in 2 operation, okay? Okay, so equal line centers has a solar sail and a 2-track division. Moon comes in and travel, okay? Set correlation of the sun and yin and yang, a process of an affinity 8-line rotation surface. Direct modification line screens, high center interference of its tunnels. Sets lines of coordination line rotation surface and triangulating line position location of its capsule and a line connection of its travel set location. Okay? So this is correlating calculation. This is code weaving. Okay, so I'm re-angling line communication anagrams, setting scramblers and line rotation circles and line rotation surface of travel. See the mechanism line connection and face recognition? See the eyes? Intelligence. Woo. You see the eye line? See the neckline rotation? Always intelligence there. Always intelligence there. So it's you. It's your avatar. That's the structure of face recognition in time frame, in position in real time. Track lines and correlation lines. I really need the team to really get out of box line rotation cycles. 4 lines of tractions in a 1 line cycle. Okay. Center core line center in the Fibonacci line set location of 2 set locations. This is all through 115, guys. This is new ground line and center correlation line connections. You're leaving the line communication, your plasma generation screens of your bodies coming at high calculation lines of machine operation set locations. Okay. So changing the Earth habitation zone of 28 puts 29 provision. That's right. You come into 2 track line settings and a line rotation surface and position locations and a 4 lines of 3. Okay, and position lines of the 7 line traction equals lines of high interference come into Earth transit line connections of 29 traction. Okay, 2 lines of provision, 9 lines of cycle. Rotates the spin cycles and travels line connection with its black hole and line rotation surface. This puts an angle point line cross line screen. Center line communication centers of platforms, a crop circle location of center calculation. Now, directing lines of communications, guys, you have to understand how to use the box frames, all right? Box frame is a main frame. Main frame is a box frame. Got to get you guys out of panels because you're out of structure now. We've got to get you guys out of position location and main frame set location. So you're the center correlation. This is you in traction, all through picture frame. That's how you see general from here. And when you take a flash picture, you see general here. Then you see general here. Then you see general here. And then you see general here, right? So once I get out of the box in the mainframe, I travel 3 line centers and line rotation cycles of generation. So I go here, I'm over here, I'm over here, I'm over here, I'm over here, just in one frame, one Photoshop and set locations all at once. Time frames all at once to a box and mainframe. Okay, that's what the team's coming into. Track lines of communication lines and high interference. So we come in a doppelganger line interference. We take the past line screens, present and future adaptation lines of surface. We put angle point line, cross line, calculation line condition, energetic dome screens. Direct modification of platforms of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6 in set location. Direct calculate lines of head center interference of past, present, and future. Correlates the future lines of 3000 line setting. Present line communication line center of 3 line settings. And present locations in line direct signals, a center correlation setting of 2050 and set location line connections. Now, I'm position of box and triangulation of box and set location of travel. DNA travel line rotation cycle of generation. Puts lines of communication. This is your pass now, guys, and platform crop circle line condition of 2015 sublocation, right? Direct modification earth line zones, line rotation, high calculated lines, and earth line setting location of 2 lines of tractions, right? Setting correlation lines of track location line provision lines is earth 26. That's location of species line. So we have crop circles, line centers, 1 laser direct signals, and 3 panels of communication line screen, high interference, location setting, and travel by astral projections through set locations. Direct lines of modification lines of center, sets of core line centers of 3, 3, 3 track location. Direct modification lines of energetic dome screen, line condition location grid, allocates position of time frames and set location of travel. Look at how powerful that is in set location. Center core units and the crop circles line design, showing you exactly what you do in position location. And again, this is a chakra system of 115 a set design. Just 115. And you understand the position of the program lines because everything is computer operated line communication screen lines. And your algorithm location setting, your transits, locations, your algorithms, and position your traffic flow and your inventory as that design of your Omni highways and communication and position of operation surface and calculation. Center core track location. All right, so it's really understanding more lines of communications. Now the graph communication comes in line signals. Now line signal allocates specific time frames. This is how you have to really understand when you've seen at 33. You could change the time locks now, which is time frame. Okay, it doesn't have to be 3407. Okay, you could change that into block. Remember I told you line position of box in a triangulation split lines of the 4 line and 3 track location provision, right? So 34, okay, or it can be 4-3. So you can basically go this way, this way, this way, this way, this way, or this way, this way, this way, go back and forth, right? But you can set a box frame in a 3-line pattern and set position, correlate the track lines in a 1-line rotation. Opens up dimensional lines of data and process correlations subtraction, right? This is what you can do through time lock. Time lock division is center core. You always have your flywheel at 8-line rotation cycles, all right? You have any problem, you connect with lines of Chris. Have any problem with Stargates, you connect with lines of Gypsy. Have any problems, you connect with Data, communicate with Heather. Any provocations of polarities, you connect with McCall. Pattern line rotation cycles generate lines of platforms and 3-line provision cycles each cerebro. Sets lines of mystical cortex line calculus setting the trial positions. Operation line set locations and position location holographic structures of design line that sets the two-line screen lines the highest interference of 2 vectors over pi. Okay, all through 3-cycle communication. Through 4-generation screen and 3 lines of set locations of calculation. Okay? So that's what the team is coming in. And again, this is all travel in position locations and set lines of 115 of set design. Everything I'm doing through structure, everything I'm doing through travel, everything I'm doing through travel is 115. All right. Now, the mechanism line screen, you allocate position time frame coming out of the star line screen lines of position operations surface. This puts all levels of angle, point, location, setting, and all track location high interference. You guys have infinitive tracker locations. Infinitive tracker locations. You guys are coming into 115 as that design. Now, you could structure line at high interference into 24 lines of pi, because that's where you are. You come in into 48 lines of pi, 72, 144 of pi. So you're starting with the 4-track division lines. You're now in north lines of east. East lines, you can go from east line. You can go from north line and a calculation of south lines of east and set location. Travel position of point lines of traction, high center interference. There's the moon, right? Moon sectors, line communications. So you're looking up in line rotation. This is you and tractions on the ground lines, the Earth, set calculations. You're looking at 3 provision cycles and 3 communication. Direct calculus line, solar sails, track line, provision lines of cycles and generation screens. Okay, there's a solar sail. We track provision, all through coordinates, and northeast, east line, east-west, north-south, south line, east, rotation cycles, and set location of traction. Okay, so I only see through the pixelation boxes, holographic structures, and it's free from structures. Yeah. So in position line centers, in line rotation cycles and generation screen lines, you have to really understand how to use surfacification of box lines and have a circulation rotations come in center calculation of galaxy line conditions. Yes, guys. You set up a box line, you can get a galaxy just in the box frame. You get a circle line position location, you have a router and router line rotation of Wi-Fi position location of center calculations. You can direct modification lines of star screens, high interference of clock location setting the time sequence. You can allocate position line highest interference at Stargate borderline rotation surface track locations and box location highest center into data highways and communication. These are the things you can do. And again, this is 115. So I want you to really pay attention to that. How it's all set in the lines of your provision lines of your pi and 24 lines of cycles. 24 angles, 24 correlations, 24 line positions at all levels. The subtraining line communication is the superbus consciousness. You guys are leaving super consciousness. You're in machine operation now. So the correlation lines, the track lines, and high provision line cycles, high generation screen location setting, and high position habitation. Direct the modification lines of capsules, line screen line interference into wormholes of correlation setting, the track lines to the crop circles. Direct calculate line screens, high adaptation lines of surface, puts all communication lines of solar sails in traction. Direct communication line interference sets position all levels of high calculation of platforms, communication holograms. Direct modification line interference sets the location setting and triangulation line position location of program location setting the satellites and set location. Direct calculation line interference at 500,000 line screen high position travel. Okay? It's all inside location, and everything I'm doing in all position is 115. So you got to go beyond. You got to get out of box line, lancing line communication, confusion lines because you have snowy graph interference. Now, when you guys get into your 115 to 117 line screen, it's all going to be snowy graph interference. It's going to be black and white. The black and white is going to change the time lock line screen out interference. It's going to put you in a coloration of new matrix line connections. It's going to change your primal circuits line condition oracle line screen into your calculation screen lines. The adaptation surface, the correlation of the track lines changes your box frames and lacing line communication settings back in coloration. Okay? All right, so I'm just telling you exactly what's going to happen to you in position line center so you don't get confused. All right, so when you get a snowy graph, the correlation lines are track lines. You have satellites and 2 lines of rotation. Sets correlations 1, 2, 3 platforms, communications. Ground lines of Earth, ground lines of core, ground lines of ether, liquid formation of center, and line rotation of surface, and triangulation at 1 point center and track location. Direct calculation modification lines of Pluto. Pluto comes very high in line rotation surface, triangulation position. That's right, planets morph into all calculus lines and timelines. They vortex stream locations. They allocate position, time frame, high interference, and kaleidoscope communication. All right, direct lines of looking glass, rotation cycle of generation line interference, like looking through a looking glass communications. Spectrum correlation lines, attraction lines, highest interference, and position locations. You guessed it, face recognition. Okay? There's always going to be a face to everything that you do through structure. You need the face lines because they really have to understand these things because the sentients come in. If you don't have a face recognition time sequence, they can take over your face recognition, plat it to your divisions, and take it to their settings application. They can take it with them. That's all programs. That's all patterns. Now, once you get in that line setting, things get a lot more complicated through line rotations. You guys are going, whoa, what's going on? All right. Track divisions, one of 40 line rotations. 10 line centers, high track locations. I'll get you guys out. So the center core line center is a line in rotation. Center and line position location are 12 lines of measure, 12 foundations, 1 signal. Okay? Now, if you look really, really close, you can actually see 0 to 12 just through a Fibonacci. If you look really, really close, you can see the point centers of traction. Right? You've got to go beyond the mind. This is 6-9 in a line rotation surface and traction. But equals lines of 12. It's a 12 graph calculation screen. Now, if you look really close, you can actually see the solar waves, solar track setting, and line center interference of solar communications and settings in solar sail and application. All through Fibonacci in calculation. This is 115. Okay. All right. So 115 is based on everything because it's all computer operation lines of hologram now. The team is out of the Earth line rotation surface. It's fantastic. All right. So track division lines of cycles. The higher you go through frequency, if you go right, that's going back, but you're going forward, right? So you think you're going back, you're not. So if you're going to direct and redirect division line connection setting on time sectors, vectors, or quads, your center correlated line connection setting is always moving forward. So even if you go, that doesn't mean you're going back. That's not a low frequency. That's creating another anomaly line conditioning, another unification of space line that sets a box frame correlation setting into a mainframe that tracks the digital location of its holographic structure of set design. Center core line, track lines, high interference. It's always, 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 always moving forward. It doesn't matter how you do it in position locations. So when you're getting ringing ears from your planet lines, high interference Earth line tone or position of space, or track division of 2 vector course line, track lines, high center interference, what are your ears and tractions? You guys are going to be blown away when I tell you. What do you think your ears are? You guys are going to be blown away. You have to understand and position what the avatar is in line condition setting. What are your actual ears in space anomaly? Atoms. Now you understand? Fibonacci line sequence, line communication lines, torical velots, line rotation cycles, and generation screen lines, high adaptation cycles. Generate the core line inherent appearance, high coefficient, high position location magnetic fields. Travel of travel lines, triangulation line condition of box center location, and Merkaba test for touch region. Correlated lines attract, high center interference, and 3 track division lines of cycles. Generate the screen lines, high adaptation. So your actual ears are atoms going one way and the other way. Oh my gosh, that makes some more sense. So my Earth is going this way in traction. Center core line setting. Your Earth is going direct. Okay? Your space is going redirect. So it's one atom going one way and another atom going this way. That's what your Earth do. Rotates the cycles, planet line surface, triangulation, line condition setting, and point lines of traction, right? Brings it all together in one cycle, line communication setting, and one program set location in one cycle. And all calculations. Through Earth calculation setting, right? Now you understand why it's so important what ears are, what you do in position of sonar? Your atom cycles, guys, that's all they are in traction. Okay? So in provision, in line rotations, you have to have one cycle going this way, and you have one cycle going this way in track lines. Okay? Right connections, left tractions, Fibonacci line settings, sets location of 6 and 9, sets location of 9 and 6, and set location. Sets lines of 9, sets lines of 9, sets lines of 6, sets lines of 6, and set locations. Balance line screens. 6 lines of provision, 6 lines of cycles. Generate correlates in center line, position of flywheel and track location. Center core lines, it goes in a loop, and it goes inline centers. Earth is in, space is out. Earth is in, space goes this way. So it's inner cycle to outer line provision, torical field, line rotation surface, and line calculation setting, orbiting, and probing, and line position of travel. Okay? I know, it's very powerful, isn't it? All through spectrum, correlation, lines, attractions. So now you understand what your ears are. Now you understand what happens when your ears are ringing. And once you get an understanding how to position your ears and now atom line rotation cycles, generate lines of one way, going in that cycles, and generate line communication going the other way, a left cycle. Opens up its portal communication lines of ears, allocates positional time frames in 3 center and line communication settings, position. Sets up position, opens up its portal. Whoa! Sets the location, goes this way and track location. Whoa! Sets communication line calculates setting. Whoa! You understand now? Sets correlation on the track lines and high interference. One line signals goes this way in traction. Whoa! Ear line rotation surface, red line setting line condition with Earth. Whoa! Center correlation lines of space lines communication with probing. Whoa! Center correlation lines of magnetic highway information line condition on highways. Whoa! Clocking system, ground lines, operation surface, crop certification setting, that calculation. Whoa! Okay? One signal line screen in space. Setting provision lines of cycles, back and tractions. Okay? And set locations. They go back and forth, right? So Earth goes in, space goes out, right? But it can go the other way. Once you go to higher line condition setting. So you got an Earth tone, but you got a space tone. Now you got a space tone, now you got Earth tone, right? When you go into the galaxies, and when shifts line cross screen lines, your eye receptor screen location, adaptation lines of surface. It allocates point lines of charts. Crop circles changes point lines of graphs and coloration of screens. And set location of sonar. Sets line communication, indication, point lines of setting, right? Indicates position of your compass, allocates positional lines of energetic dome screens in one line cycle, 3 line provisions, center core lines of track lines, and energy field and set location of travel. All 3 set location line conditions. Okay? And what a we in track line is? 15 of 6. Is that coincidence? No. Now it's at 16 of 6. Is that coincidence? No. Which means I'm communicating to my computer, and my computer is communicating to me at the same time frame, all at once, in real time, people. So you can change time frames because there's no existence to everything but existence of everything. Massive nothing, massive equation. We already got that correlation setting track lines, but you've got to come out of the box line screens now. Allocate position or time frames to put all levels of all communication in your settings, your Earth tone, space tone, magnetic highways, and location of your Earth's locations in position of crop circles and energetic domes and set location of center calculation. All right, we're done. I know you guys are like, wow, I need to drink some water. Okay, so it's keeping track every second, every minute, every hour, minute, second, every line conditions, right? Hours, minutes, seconds, center correlation. Seconds, minutes, and hours of space. Seconds, minutes, hours of Earth. The hour, minute, and second has to be frame of you. So what that does, the modification of your mind line, high interference, travels correlation of seconds, minutes, and hours so fast, line position of truth narrows and false narrows in one cycle, one division, one location, one calculation, all at once. Simultaneously, all at once. Okay, that's the provision line cycles. Now we're in 17. What is 17? One line, 7 theta, 7 rotations. Now it's 1 ground, 7 line centers, 7 calculations. See what I'm doing? I'm changing the frame, changing the program, changing the correlation, changing the traction, changing the division, changing the crop circle, changing the energy, changing the vibration, changing the frequency, changing the harmonics. It's never, ever at the same time because it doesn't exist. Okay? One line centered 7 circles, line condition is 7 rounds. One line centered 7 line rotations and 7 pi. You see what I'm doing? You see what I'm doing? Direct and redirect, direct and redirect, You can do that with anything through letters, numbers, shades, and symbols. You can do that with anything through time frame communications, right? See you in 5.